What's up, guys? I made this huge piece of paper out of like multiple pieces of paper to make a poster about membrane. Now, membrane is something that my class that I'm enrolled in wants me to talk about, and it just wants me to talk about the categorization of terms. So these terms, basically the categorization I use, to organize these terms that associate with the membrane. Okay, now when I think about the membrane, I thought of three main things it does because the membrane is a simple word, but it's the purpose of a membrane, the things that go into the membrane, the complexities and sense. But the main three things I thought about were keep out, transport, facilitate, contain, and shape. Now let me talk about these categorizations and what they mean. So keep out. Now keep out means things that basically make sure all the bad stuff that we don't want in our cells stays out, right? So whatever's not good for the cell, stay out. Kind of like our skin. We don't want bacteria, insects, all that kind of stuff to enter our bodies. So our skin works hard to make sure that stuff stays out, right? Now transport, facilitate, and contain. Now the whole cell, the whole membrane is an active being, creature, if you may. So this active section, everything's active, but this the main purpose of stuff categorized in this section of transport, facilitate, and contain are very active components. So transport basically means things that help transport materials in or out the cell. Facilitate are things that help maintain the processes or just things that happen in the cell, right? Or keep the cell alive, for example. Now contain is the vice versa of keep out. Contain basically means stuff, self-explanatory, the stuff that the cell wants to keep, not give away, not get rid of. And finally, one of the simplest things I thought of was shape, right? The membrane plays a huge role in shape. Without the membrane, there would be no shape to our cells, right? And based on the membrane, it determines the shape of the cell. My apologies. It's just like our skin. If our skin was spiky, we would be spiky, right? Same thing with the cell. If the cell membrane was spiky, cells will look spiky, right? But if you know how a cell looks like, it's not spiky at all because of the membrane. All right, so let's talk about some things I put into these categorizations. Now, if you look here at these categories, I just want to point out one thing. I highlighted plasma membrane. Now, why? I didn't do it because it's special. Yes, the plasma membrane is special. Don't get me wrong. But the plasma membrane is highlighted because I wanted to go down here and show you that, boom, it's highlighted as well. And I just did that because it's one of many terms that it's an overachiever. What does this mean? It means that there are many terms that don't just stay in one category. They go everywhere. They go into multiple categories because they're overachievers. They do so many things for the membrane or in the membrane, etc. So keep out. So an example, since we're talking about plasma membrane, I put plasma membrane as an example of keep out from one of the terms because, the plasma membrane helps things, negative things, bad things from coming into the cell, right? And make sure they don't come into the cell, right? And like for another example, if we go down here, we could talk about hypotonic solutions and hypertonic solutions. Now that is a broad statement to put under keep out, categorizing it under keep out, but I put that for a reason that we all know that hypertonic talks about the concentration of certain things, right? So if it's hypotonic, it means the concentration inside the cell is higher. If it's hypertonic, concentration is outside the cell is higher, right? So it can keep certain things out based on concentration, right? So it's a broad statement, but it will fall under that if you think about it. All right, let's go over here to transport, facilitate, and contain. So these are so many examples. One of the examples I put down for transport, we can see there's a lot of gradients, channels, all that stuff. Passive transport, that's a big one, right? Right here, passive transport, basically talking about the need for energy or not the need of energy to transport things in and out the membrane and stuff like that. All right. Let's do facilitate because facilitate is a complicated one, talking about the processes and maintenance of the cell, of the membrane and things that do that inside the membrane. So for example, let's see, a very big list. Let's see here, detergent molecules. So I put that in transport, facilitate, and contain because it does facilitate something in the membrane. It facilitates denaturization of the membrane. Now, if you don't know about detergent molecules, it's basically a molecule that can denaturize the membrane. So that's why I put it there. Facilitate. Contain. Like I said, contains the vice versa keep out. The membrane helps keep things in the cell. So contain, let's see. A lot of stuff, see? Select the permeability, you know, all this stuff helps. There's a lot of things in here to help keep things in the cell. Right, and honestly, plasma membrane should be in there too because that kind of helps things keep in the cell as well. So look at plasma membrane in all three sections. All right, so shape. Now shape is one of the simplest things that the membrane does. Like I said earlier, without the membrane, there would be no shape. And with no shape, there would be no cell. So here's the terms that are categorized under there. Let me pick a few examples out, like plasma membrane, phospholipid bilayer. Again, we see detergent molecules because, like I said earlier, it facilitates the denaturization of the membrane. Now the membrane is denaturized, then there will be a really weird shape or no shape at all. So that's why it falls under this section, right? Let me talk about this real quick. Now this is like a little subsection. As you can see, it branches out from these two topics. And let me bring it up here because it does the same thing here. Now the reason that this is here like that is because, you know, these models were in our terms, and these models talk about certain components in the membrane, right? So they talk about the plasma membrane, phospholipid bilayer, and the reason for that is because the sandwich model and the fluid mosaic model talk about, you know, the structure of the cell, the fluidity, you know, and the plasma membrane. It talks about that specifically. So that's why I branched it out into that section. And because those two things are overachievers and fall into the category of shape, the models pop up as well. And really, like I said, plasma membrane goes into all three. So this should be here too. But yeah, so basically when I'm thinking about membrane, I think about these three main things: to keep out, the activity of transport, facilitating, containing, and shape. And once again, like I said, in these three things, the complexity, there's so many topics, so many terms that associate with the membrane. Boom. 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 It's a huge, huge poster. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. I know I talked fast, talk a lot, but there's so much to talk about. Thank you guys for tuning in. Hopefully you didn't fall asleep like her. Snow, say bye. All right, guys. Thank you.